My name's Adele Onyango, and welcome to another episode of Legally Clueless. No, seriously, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. Hey you, welcome to episode 241 of Legally Clueless. Thank you so much for rocking with this podcast. I've got nothing but love for all my OG members. It's so great to see this family growing. And I also want to say a big shout out to you if this is your first time listening to this podcast. Audio episodes like this go out every single Monday, and you can also watch our beautiful video series. There's 4 seasons of it out on our YouTube channel. You can also sign up to join our family officially. That's on legallycluelessafrica.com. Oh, and I feel like I forgot to... Yes! Join us in our cozy, warm, positive corner of the internet, which is our Instagram page. We're at Legally Clueless Africa. I don't know why I always seem to forget that, but I've put links to all of that in the show notes to make things easier for you to, just click and head on to. Very excited about this episode because, as you see, it is the breast episode, and I feel like the story you're going to listen to is going to be so informative but also super inspiring as well. Listen to this.
I'm the one who picked up my results from the laboratory. I was to deliver them to my surgeon's office for him to be able to tell me what it is that is going on. And if you know us and our phones these days, you can't stop us from Googling. So I looked at the results. I Googled all those medical terms that were there. And so I had a clue that they all tested positive for the cancerous cells that spread from one breast to the other breast to the bone in between. And it revealed that some bits of the cells had spread to the brain.
That is Bwire's story. We're going to get to it a little later in this episode. But now, Song of the Week. I'm super happy about this because just last week I shared with you Java's song, and I shared both the video, but also his Colors performance of the song Umama, which is so delicious. Guess what? Well, Colors collabed with Spotify, and we're getting some dope Kenyan artists giving us Colors performances. Yes. And the first one just went out, and it's by, I think, one of Kenya's top vocalists. And she has been our top vocalist for a long time. She's not new on the scene. Her music is just so powerful. Her voice. Oh my goodness. Okay, so the song of the week is the Colors performance that Lisa Oduor-Noah gave for her most recent single, I believe, called For Keeps. Oh, her voice. And then, those of us who are not vocally blessed, whenever I watch people who sing, I'm just like, you just open your mouth and unprovoked, this beautiful sound comes out. Teach me, because then I open my mouth. It's completely different, but it's a beautiful performance. She looks so stunning. Oh, she looks so stunning. The link is in the show notes. I know you're going to love it. So jumping into this episode, being smack in the middle of October, which if you don't know is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I decided we definitely needed to have the breast episode. So a bit of my background interacting with breast cancer. My mom got diagnosed when I was about 10, 11 years old. At the time, I don't really think I really understood. No, for sure. I did not understand what cancer was. And I was just like, okay, so she'll get treated and she'll get over it and life will continue as usual, right? I still remember celebrating my birthday in hospital with her. And we celebrated both mine and my dad's birthday because my dad's birthday is the day before mine. So I remember sweets and cake in this hospital room. I believe it was Nairobi Hospital. And yeah, so we were cutting cake and I was sharing it with the nurses. I don't know why in my head, I was just like, this is absolutely normal. I think kids have, I don't know if this is real, but maybe with some things, kids adapt easier because they're not as stuck in their ways as adults. And maybe ignorance is also bliss because me, I was there thinking this is like a flu. So I was adjusting real quick, until I remember there was this kid in school who came up to me and was like, oh, your mom has cancer. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, well, she's gonna die, right? Kids can be fucking vicious, right? Anyway, so I also remember chemo being extremely rough for my mom. I remember we'd have a bucket near her bed and she'd be throwing up a lot through the night. Eh, that woman, so strong, She fought breast cancer. I mean, it would later spread, but she fought breast cancer for 13 years and she was still present for everything we needed. I don't remember a time my mom wasn't available for any school or personal things for me. I don't remember a time where I didn't feel her love or her presence around me. Yet she was fighting this like vicious disease. And this was back in the day, right? Like, so her diagnosis was like in 99. Before you could have, I'm not saying it's easier now. I'm not taking away from the challenge of battling cancer now, but I'm just saying back then there was still a lot of stigma. The medication and research around the medication had only gone so far. So the side effects were really trash. Whenever I think about her in that moment for that over a decade, I'm just like, how did she do this? How did my mom was still so confident, so strong, still chasing her goals, still showing up. I think I can count on one hand the times I saw her being in a position where I was scared, but she'd always fight through. And so I think about that a lot and just kind of like try and tell myself, even when I'm going through things that are challenging, not necessarily health wise, I think about like, if I came from that, then surely a bit of that strength is somewhere in me and I should be able to tap into it. And so I want to honor all breast cancer survivors and warriors and those we've lost. I want to cheer those who are still on the journey. I want to send so much love their way. And to those of us who haven't been diagnosed with cancer, please let this episode be a reminder for you to go and get screened. And I have to also say this, men get breast cancer as well. It's a common misconception that they don't. So being October, I will be sharing a little later in this episode where you can go and get a free breast cancer screening. There's also going to be free mammograms for the first 100 people. But before we get there, I've gotten ahead of myself. So I wanted to amplify stories of breast cancer warriors. And so I teamed up with Estee Lauder to do that in this episode. They're not only creating awareness this month, but also sponsoring mammograms. Yes. I'm going to give you more details on that after this story, but I want you to really take in Bwire's story. She is a top Kenyan actress. She's based in Mombasa. She's so wonderful. Her energy is so right. And her story just weaves us through her journey, battling breast cancer, owning her femininity, even away from breasts, and where she's at now in her treatment. 100 African stories on Legally Clueless. Stories from Africa.
My name is Bwire Ndubi Winfred, and I come from Kenya, a little town in Kenya known as Mombasa. I was about 13 years old when they discovered that I have cystic lumps in both my breasts, and my parents were very vigilant about healthcare, especially my dad. And so they would take me in for mammograms and have them monitored. And I remember at the time the doctors said, this happens in young girls, it's going to disappear with time. Most girls, because they're going through hormonal changes, these lumps come and go. So we should just leave them alone if they are not metastatic, meaning cancerous. And so they left them in me. And I think that was the beginning of a big disaster, because for years we went in for mammograms and they were perfectly okay. And 20 something years later, they turned cancerous. But before we get to them turning cancerous, I remember I one day I got my period and my underarm was throbbing. When the period ended, the pain ended. And so you think, oh, this is just like a periodic girl thing. We get pain everywhere. Or probably I have like an infection in my lymphatic system and stuff like that. And then the second month, my period came and my underarm was throbbing again. This is my right arm. It was throbbing again. And then the period left and the pain left. And you know, when the pain leaves, you sort of forget about about it, and you don't bother with it anymore. But I went in and I saw a general practitioner and I told them every time I get my period, my underarm throbs. And she examined me for breast cancer. She examined the lumps that were originally there that we've been monitoring for the last 20 years. And she told me, there's nothing to worry about. You're going to be fine. And then the next month, my period came and went, and my underarm would not stop throbbing. And that is when I knew absolutely something is wrong. And so my mom suggested that we go see a gynecologist this time as opposed to a general practitioner. And the gynecologist spent 2 minutes with me and he could tell that something was wrong. And so he sent me in for scans. We did CT scans with contrast. He sent me in for a biopsy where they picked samples from the original lumps it is that I've had for over the last 20 years. We took them to the lab, and when they came, all the lumps that were tested positive for cancerous cells. When the doctor was breaking the news to my family and I was with my mom and my partner at the time. I remember I don't think I could feel anything. I was so anxious and I was so on the roll for a solution that I did not get to process my feelings. And maybe what I need to mention is I'm the one who picked up my results from the laboratory and I was to deliver them to my surgeon's office for him to be able to tell me what it is that is going on. And if you know us and our phones these days, you can't stop us from Googling. So I looked at the results way beforehand and I Googled all those medical terms that were there. And so I had a clue that they all tested positive for the cancerous cells. So I just went to the doctors for formality. And of course, you can't tell your doctor that you Googled results. You have to sort of hear it from him and get proper confirmation. And so when he confirmed, it was not so much of a shock to me because I'd already picked at the results. But of course, my partner was shocked, mom was shocked. I remember telling the doctor, you have to figure out a way to save my breasts because I'm going to have babies and they are going to breastfeed from these very same breasts. And I remember him encouraging us. And at that point, my mind was just on a roll to get better. I am quite the solution driven kind of person. I don't really mull over a problem until much later when I'm processing the feelings. So I was on the go. I was like, okay, I've got cancer. So how do we do this? Where do we start? I was just on a roll. I didn't have time to process the feelings or mourn. It didn't really dawn on me what cancer treatment looks like, what it entails, the process, because with each diagnosis comes a different treatment plan. It's never really the same. For me, realization of how heavy the treatment plan is came when I was already in it. You know, when you get diagnosis, all you want to do is feel better. Doctor says we're going to do this, so you're on the roll. You're like, yes, let's do this. We're going to beat this. And then you start treatment and you're right in the middle of it and you're like, oh my God, I didn't know how heavy this is going to be. emotionally, financially, physically, even. It really takes a toll on your body. So for me, the realization came about when I was right in the middle of treatment, I think on my fourth round of chemotherapy. And I was thinking, I can't do this. Like, this is too much for me. And I remember treatment for me, diagnosis and treatment came when I was right in the middle of a project that I could not back out of, despite the fact that I had been given the option to back out of. I'm an actress by profession, and we were right in the middle of filming a daily show. And so, planning my treatments and the shoots, my day to day life, and my body taking a beating, I was right in the heart of it when I was having my meltdowns. And thinking, oh my goodness, I can't do this. I thought I could, but I can't do this. If you have heard about chemo and the stories that surround chemo, you know it's a topic that everyone dreads, and sometimes we don't even know what chemotherapy is. Up until I got my diagnosis, I thought chemotherapy was some machine someone was put into out of sheer ignorance. And I only got to really understand what it is by experiencing it. And so I was super scared about chemo because I had already done my Google research, and it was telling me the kind of breast cancer I was battling, which is ductal carcinoma in situ, is treated through something called a lumpectomy if the tumor is less than 2 centimeters in size. And so here my doctor was telling me my tumor is big and we need to do chemotherapy to shrink. And my mind was stuck on the fact that why doesn't he just do this simple procedure called lumpectomy where they just vacuum this tumor out and then they take you to radiotherapy and bam. I was looking for a quick fix and I wasn't aligning with what my doctor wanted because in my head and my Google, I thought I knew what treatment plan I was supposed to be on. And so there was a lot of denial in that, and it took me some time to come around and accept that I had actually had to do chemotherapy. And the doctor told me there was no escaping it because we have to shrink the tumors. They are bigger than 4 centimeters, which is quite big. And the first round of chemo for me was quite an experience because I think I went fully prepared. I had my water, I had my juices, I listened to what the doctor said, and the medication was administered, and everything went okay. I had no reactions, no side effects whatsoever until around midnight when I had to be rushed back to hospital because it just seemed like my body was shutting down. And I think it was the shock from receiving the treatment. And I remember we were up all night. I had to be rushed to Nairobi Women's Hospital here in Mombasa. And the doctors could not even figure out what the issue was. But I think my body was just in shock from receiving this treatment that was harsh and it didn't know how to react. It was a horrible night for us, despite the fact that I had spent a very nice day at the treatment center surrounded by patients and we encouraged each other and we were like, yes, we were going to do this until it was midnight and we were alone at home and hell just broke loose. It was horrible. I remember thinking to myself, I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to get through this. And that is what kept me going. I am my mom's and dad's only child, and therefore giving up was not an option for me. And I think for the longest time, I was doing it for everybody else but me. I I was going for my partner at the time because he had just lost the mother of his children. and he'd been on a whole roll with his mental health and loss, and he was just around getting better. And then I got my diagnosis, and so I'm thinking, I have to do this for him, I have to do this for my children, I have to do this for my parents because I'm their only child. I did not for a second stop to think that I'm doing this for me. So that right there, I think, was the beginning of a big problem, because I was doing it for everyone else but me. I realized that I have to do it for myself much later in the in the treatment plan. This would be about more than 1.5 years post my diagnosis and treatment. Normally, post receiving cancer treatment, we normally do something called a PET scan, where they get to do a scan that gets to show if the cancerous cells are dying, are they progressive, just to know the general wellness of a patient. And so when I went for my routine checkup, I was expecting good news, and I started experiencing some weird symptoms pretty much aligned on the day of the PET scan. I was feeling sick, I was losing my balance, I was losing my vision. And so I told the doctors on site, and of course, I went in for my PET scan, and the results then show that instead of the disease progressively dying, it was progressively activating. It had spread from one breast to the other breast to the bone in between, and it revealed that it some bits of the cells had spread to the brain, and that was the beginning of life changing for me. And at that particular point, I knew I had to do it for myself. That was the turnaround point for me. I knew I had to do it for myself. When the doctors told me that the cancer had spread, I was numb. I was so numb, I couldn't think. I remember being I would describe it as a feeling of just transversing through space and time. There was like a vacuum that surrounded me. That's the best way I could describe it. Like I completely shut everything out. And I was thinking, these are my final days. Like, I'm just going to go home, enjoy life. I just wait to die. But then again, I decided I've not come all this way for nothing. Like, I've not battled cancer for 1.5 years for nothing. And I had previously gone public about my battle with breast cancer. And so many people reached out to me in search of hope and encouragement. And I think they just wanted to relate to someone who is going through the same. And they found that in me. And so in that, I found purpose, because again, I couldn't just let myself go. I was carrying more than just me, and this time around in a meaningful way, not in an obligation kind of way, or in a way that felt like I was doing it for others and because of their needs. This was purely for me and the people that understand exactly what it is I'm going through. That gave me the strength to pick up and turn this bad news around. And as much as it was bad news, I was in so much pain and the treatment plans didn't make sense. My doctors came through for me and they put me on a 10-day roll, which literally saved my life and ensured that I'm telling my story now. For a very long time, I felt like the cancer affected my identity, because I, in fact, I remember before I went public, I was really battling with, should I or should I not? Because I didn't want people to see me for this disease. I'm quite a talented human being, actress, singer, songwriter, playwright. And I couldn't stand the thought of people just looking at me and seeing me for this disease or this thing that is eventually going to kill me, as most people presume. I really struggled with that. And I came around because I decided that nobody goes through these experiences for themselves. It's purely for other people. And I owed it to the world to share what it is I was going through. And so I lost my identity for quite some time. The ideologies in my head, the stories I would cook up in my head, thinking that people won't love me anymore or see me for me anymore because I was battling this thing called cancer. I really struggled with that. But I had a very good support system, a very good spiritual system that kept me afloat, and that really grounded me and the journey it is that I was about to embark. With my femininity, I part of me felt like if I knew my breasts would cause me this much trouble, I would have gotten rid of them a long, long time ago. But I am quite your bold girl. I embrace life as it comes. And so I told myself my breasts don't necessarily define my femininity, but my self esteem was definitely ruined. I am quite your big busted kind of girl. And so for a very long time, my breasts have been part of my identity, part of the compliments I receive where my outlook is concerned. And so having that stripped from you in form of a deformity or an infection or the thought that your breasts will never be the same again definitely took a toll on my brain. But part of me knows about reconstructive surgery. I'm open minded to that. And so it didn't really bother me to the core. The second round of treatment that I was put on post the cancer spreading is definitely a more aggressive one. What I'm currently on is called target therapy, and it is aimed at killing malignant cancerous cells, like cancerous cells that have spread to other parts of the body. Basically, those cells are specifically targeted. Target therapy is a combination, it could be a combination of pills and an injection, or a combination of just pills, different types of pills depending on which kind of cancer you're battling. And you take these on a daily basis to be able to target the specific cancerous cells on a day-to-day basis. It's different from chemotherapy because people receive chemotherapy on a weekly basis or on a tri-weekly basis where they're given IVs packed with the different combination of drugs to shrink or target or kill the tumors. I would call it this for me would be the third round of treatment, because the first round of treatment was chemotherapy. The second round of treatment was target therapy, but not as aggressive as the one they've put me on. So after my PET scan, they discovered that they are dealing with an aggressive type of cancer, which they didn't feel was aggressive before. And so they shifted me to an even stronger version of target therapy, which is a combination of injections and pills that I take on a daily basis. But before that, they had to stop everything and deal with what was happening in my brain because that destabilized my life. So I had to undergo 10 rounds of radiation treatment to my brain within a span of 10 days to stabilize me and give me back quality of life and function. As we know, the brain is very sensitive, and that is what was posing as a danger to my life. So when I finished the 10 rounds of radiotherapy, I embarked back on the breast cancer treatment, which is treating me really well. There are so many misconceptions around cancer and many, many fears. Yes, so many people project these on me. There's a whole bunch of people that look at me like I'm dead when I pass by. You can see it in their eyes and you want to slap the hell out of them, but you're thinking, I know they're coming from a good place where they're sympathizing with me, but it's not necessarily the best place to be at. Misconceptions that just because someone has cancer means they are going to die, that needs to change. There's a misconception that just because someone, like, how do I put it? People assume that because you're battling cancer, you don't have a life. Like you don't do anything else other than battling cancer. It takes that away from you. But what people don't actually know is that when you're battling cancer, you're encouraged to live a normal a life. You're encouraged to live a very normal life as possible. For instance, if you're going through chemotherapy, and you have a job and you have kids and you have a husband, despite the fact that your body is taking a beating, you're encouraged to go about your day-to-day duties as normal because that helps jumpstart your body, that helps keep it in rhythm, it helps keep you out of depression, it gives you something to do, and you don't feel like just this sick person who people are taking care of, but you feel like a human being who is going through a certain battle backed up by a couple of people. So most people project death on us, most people project their pain on us. Another thing that I find people keep doing is, and they think is encouraging to us, they keep wanting to relate to us by mentioning someone they knew that had cancer, but the way they do it is actually in a way that is not so encouraging. Like someone would say, I had an aunt that died of cancer. And you're thinking, okay, how is that supposed to help me? How about I know someone that battled cancer and is doing well, or the reference points they give us are of people that are actually going to inspire us to want to fight for our lives more. This cancer journey definitely came with a lot of life changing experiences. And yes, you find that you're going to lose actually a whole ton of relationships and friendships that you have, even family members. And yes, this was the case for me. I have one side of my family that took this news very well in the sense that, okay, we have this problem. How do we solve it? They addressed it head on. And the other side of the family addressed it by sweeping it under the rug. Nobody talked about it. If any, just one or two people. And I totally understand the discomfort that comes with it. And we deal with pain and trauma in different ways. But this was me right in the middle, dealing with two sides of a family. One did not want to absolutely talk about it, and we have gone about it like it does not exist. And the other side of the family is helping me fight this head on. So you can see already from that, even where family is concerned, some relationships have been, I wouldn't say lost there, but numbed. We're just existing in a time, in a space and time where no one is having this conversation, and that for me needs to happen. We can't sweep things under the rug and expect them to sort themselves out. Sometimes we just have to address things head on because it is what it is. Breast cancer has been quite a taboo topic for a while, and I am quite a vocal person, and this drove me crazy. And that's why I decided as an actor in this country, I am going to stand up and speak about this thing that no one wants to speak about. And yes, I feel like it has cost me some jobs because everyone just assumes, oh, we do not want to involve her in a project just in case she dies in the middle or she's not equipped enough to follow through with the project, because at the end of the day, they're looking at their investment and investment. So I definitely think my going public cost me some jobs. I show up for auditions and it's never the same. That's okay because I know the journey I'm on. I know how my body feels. And I do know that I will get to work as an actor at some point in time. But this is quite a taboo topic to speak about, and we should definitely normalize speaking about breast cancer and any other form of cancer. I'm currently going through the cancer treatment, and I have some up days, I have some down days. Some days I have meltdowns. I record. I went on a journey where I asked my followers to help me document my life battling cancer as an artist. And so we embarked on shooting a documentary from the word go, and they've been supporting me throughout a better part of the year. And it has given me an outlet, some form of outlet, because we get to capture all the meltdowns, all the happy days. Some days we will do photo shoots. For instance, we are running the 31 Days of Pink campaign with the Bwire and Warriors Foundation for this month of October, where we are raising awareness for women and men to come get screened so they can know the status of their breasts early enough for us to save their lives. And so, in documenting these moments, I get my outlet because we shoot like when I go in for radiation, we shoot it. When I'm having my meltdowns, we shoot it, we document it, and I get to watch myself over and over again. And I get to laugh at myself sometimes. I get to share with my sisters, friends, what it is I was feeling in the moment, and they condole with me or they take me out, and we have a good time. So it definitely is helping. The Legally Clueless Africa family can support me and other breast cancer warriors by amplifying our voice out there, by normalizing talking about cancer without stigma, by having a cancer conversation like you would a HIV or malaria conversation, because they are all just diseases. This is because we notice that most of the cancer patients are dying not necessarily from the disease they're battling, but the stigma it is they're facing. And you know, the stigma that surrounds cancer comes with deformity. And so the thought of even sharing what they look like or what it is they are going through, or the depressive side of medication they are going through, or the financial stress they are going through. There's so much that encompasses a cancer patient goes through that takes them through too much stress, that the disease keeps getting worse on their end. And therefore, in amplifying our voice and normalizing the conversation around cancer and cancer treatments and cancer screenings, I think Legally Clueless could really join in on the bandwagon to enhance these conversations and have people talk about them like we would talk about, hey, I'm going to hang out somewhere, see someone who's going through ABCD. Like, just have it be a normal conversation that we can talk about without walking on eggshells or needles. If I could talk to other women who are battling breast cancer, I would tell them that they are loved. What their breasts look like now shouldn't matter, because there's options for reconstructive surgery if they want. There's hope. We're not stuck like in 10, 20 years ago where reconstructive surgery was just a thing of the rich. It's possible now, especially for people who have self esteem issues. That should not bother them. Most people don't want to have their breasts cut off because of mindset that we are supposed to have proper balanced breasts, or they're thinking now, how will I walk around with one breast? I would totally encourage them to go through treatment, and then when they're done with treatment they can focus on reconstruction. And there are so many facilities that are coming in, partnering to help restore women to their original glory, where we know we value our breasts and our hips and all that, and therefore it's possible. It's no longer a thing of the past. Therefore, I would tell you, you are loved. What you look like now does not matter. Go through your treatment plan, finish it, feel better, because the experience you're going through is for someone else. And when you are done, There is possibility for restoration. That should not put you down at all.
Catch more African stories in the next episode of Legally Clueless. She has such a calming energy. Oh my goodness. We recorded this story virtually because we're not in the same location, but I really can't wait to finally meet Bwire one day because I just feel like she's just got such good energy. I really identified with the bits when she talks about fight your battles for you. And just even saying how the first time around with her treatment, she was fighting the cancer, but for everyone else. And she deemed that like a crisis, right? And you can like take that lesson and kind of like relate it to other things in your life. At least that's what I did. Even like with me currently, I'm like, the things I'm fighting internally, I need to be fighting for myself, not for anybody else, right? Because then how can you be present for anybody else if you're not full yourself? We actually recorded the story as she was undergoing treatment, so it really touched me that she made time for us and was so gracious, and even just like her little laughs here and there as she's sharing her story. What I want us to do is please, I've put a link to her Instagram in the show notes. Go and show her some love. I was thinking about it as we're developing an in-house campaign that we'll be sharing soon. The world needs a lot of many things, but I think the first things we need to kind of start pouring back into the world are kindness and love. Kindness and love. And so I urge you, as you've listened to this, please go to Bwire's page and pour some kindness and love her way. Let's do that. Let's cheer her on. A link to her Instagram is in the show notes. And then the second thing I want us to be able to amplify and share is what Estee Lauder is doing from the 23rd to the 27th of October, and then from the 30th to the 31st of October. There is a free breast cancer screening. Yes, you just need to show up, all right, at the Dr. Razik Kantaria Jalaram Medical Service. If you have no idea where that is, it's opposite the Oval in Nairobi. From 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on those dates, free breast cancer screening. Now, what's really dope that Estee Lauder has done is that they are giving 100 ladies free mammograms as well. We've put a link in the show notes for you to get more details on this. Please share those dates with your circles, I remember my mom, later on got into like breast cancer awareness work, and all their campaigns used to say, early detection is the best protection. Trust me, it is. Just go for your screening. The earlier anything is detected, the better. Don't be afraid. Go with your group of friends. Make it a plan. You know what I mean? Make it one of your October plans. Why not? And make it like an act of self-love for yourself. You're taking care of yourself and it's free. So you just kind of need to just show up, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you want to share your story on our podcast, head over to the show notes. There's a storyteller form you need to fill out, and then we'll get back to you. Doesn't matter where in the world you are, we will get your story. Also, make sure you sign up to join our community, legallycluelessafrica.com. Go to our website, sign up there. And if you're in Kenya, you can catch us on Trace FM every Monday and Wednesday at 1 p.m. and 11 p.m. Fridays at 1 p.m. Just go to traceradio.co.ke to stream. And in the spirit of keeping you inspired, especially now that I'm coming out of my funk, I'm back to cheering you on instead of you cheering me on. I want to leave you with this inspiring clip that I stumbled upon.
Hey, it's okay that it still hurts. It is normal to have to heal from the same thing more than once, because the truth is that deep wounds have many layers. And in order for those layers to be shed, they need to be seen and let go again and again and again. So release the idea that healing is a one and done kind of thing, or that you're not doing it quickly enough, or you're somehow doing it wrong. Because the fact that you're even noticing that those layers exist and you're allowing them to exist means that you are doing it right.
That's it for this episode of Legally Clueless. You can share this podcast with your friends. You can keep it for yourself. I'm not judging. Just make sure you're here next week for the next episode.